What is up, Steeler fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Hangover. I'm Daniel. Shannon White's not with us today. He's got to dealing with a little bit of the weather, actually, and so he's safe. He's just out there dealing with the elements. Apparently, a little bit of snow coming down on his side of town. Well, we do have a guest, none other than the original Hangover himself, Brian Anthony Davis. Welcome to the Steelers Hangover. Welcome back to the Steelers Hangover. How's it going, my man?
Thank you. Yes, this is a show that Jeff Hartman and I created back in 2016. So it's going strong. It's been around, I guess this coming season will be season 10 of The Hangover. And we've gone through a lot of fun voices here. Jeff and myself, of course, Tony Defio, who was doing it for a long time, of course, bringing in Shannon, and now you're doing a fantastic job with it. So happy to see this show continuing to do well in the live chat with the downloads. Everybody is excited about checking this out every week, so I appreciate you all. And everybody who some of these names that I'm seeing have been with us since the beginning. Whether I agree or disagree with you, I love you all because we can't do these shows without you. So thank you so much. And I'll be glad to spend the next 40 minutes with you. But Daniel, it's great to always hang out on the mic with you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I know it's getting kind of cold out there, a lot colder than it is down here in Texas. We finally hit sub 40. For the first time I can't say all year because it's only a couple of days into the year, but for the first time this winter season, it's finally cooled down and here. And looking forward to this show as well. You were at the game this past weekend, isn't that correct?
Yeah, I was. We have some friends that they are friends, Carolyn and Cliff, and their son Dylan, who's one of my son's best friends. We met them through scouting, and we played trivia with them, and we basically introduced the Steelers to Daniel and not Daniel, you're Daniel, to Carolyn and Dylan this year, and my son as well. They all got into it. We watch every week together, and for Christmas they wanted to get us tickets to the game, so we went with them. Best seats of my life, down in section 122, and I know that's close to you, isn't it?
That is right in. I'm in section 122.
We were in row G.
Nice.
And right between the uprights, it was fantastic, and I could see everything going on. We were bundled. My kids, it was my daughter's first ever game, and they had a blast. And Dylan looked at my son and me when they played Renegade and said, "This is one of the best moments of my life." And that's something that you got to realize when people watch those games for the first time live. It's like going to midnight mass with the Pope for some people, because it's just a special. I mean, it's a special experience, and so I'm really so thrilled that they got a chance to experience it. And it reminded me of my first game, December 5th, 1982.
Nice. Yeah, my first game was back in 2005. It was the year that the Pittsburgh Steelers won the Super Bowl. They played in Houston and they demolished the Houston Texans.
Week 2.
Yeah, week 2. It was I just came back from the military, got a chance to go in there. I saw Jerome, I saw Ben. I was starstruck. I was like, we're breathing the same air. It was crazy for me.
They did something interesting in that game that all teams try to do on the Steelers in September. And the Houston Texans said, well, we'll make them wear black. They'll suffer. They never give up the black uniforms. It could be 120 degrees. The Steelers are wearing black. And back in the day, those were wool uniforms. They didn't care. They were wearing black at home. So there you go. I guess let's get hungover.
There you go. Let's do it. So you were there. You got a live view of everything. Where's your confidence in Russell Wilson? This has been a slow start for the last, all season. It's been slow start after slow start. I think the Steelers have 3 touchdowns in the first quarter all year. A lot of people are kind of blaming some blame there at Russ. I can't see the field from the TV angle as much as you probably could have. Where's your confidence in Russell Wilson after the performance against the Cincinnati Bengals?
Well, if blame were dollar bills and Acrisure Stadium was a strip club, it would be raining him down on everybody right now because there's plenty of blame to go around. My confidence with Russell Wilson is still there. You can't replace him right now. I mean, I know some people, I'm going to get poo-pooed for not saying bring in Justin Fields. He's been there and done that. He's done that in Green Bay before. He knows how to play in these situations on the road, in prime time, in bad weather. He does. But he wasn't great in this game. But I will tell you this. There were too many drops. And receivers, I had the all 22 look because I was in the end zone. And or the all 122 look. But that section. So you can see it when you're at the game. Guys were not getting open. So when I look at that and I look at the combined effort in this game, and I know I'm the eternal optimist, I know I'm an apologist for the Steelers a lot of the time, but at the end of that game, they were in position to win that football game. Now, my problem is this. Russell Wilson was holding on to the ball a lot, but he also wasn't given a lot of time to hold on to the ball in this game. So it's a combination of both. There's plenty of blame for number 3. I can't say that there's not. But there's not a guy right now that includes number 2, that includes number 4, that I want to be in Baltimore for this game. He's a guy that knows how to win in the playoffs, and he's got to bring it out now. It's now or never. And guess what? He's playing for his job.
Yeah.
Because, there's not a lot of people are going to throw some money at him. The Steelers aren't throwing money at him if he blows this game. And nobody's going to throw. I mean, they're going to throw backup money at him. He's not going to get what he wants. So I really feel that there's a lot on his shoulders here. But the biggest problem, Daniel, is when you get a ball off, your receivers have got to catch him, and it was a bad experience. And one of the most sure-handed guys is Pat Freiermuth. And he was open across the middle, and it went right between his hands at the end of that game. And then George Pickens is a whole nother story right now too. But also another big problem is when you are handing off the ball 10 of 12 times on first down to start the game. You become a little predictable too. Maybe you can't do it. Maybe you can't do all that. But, here we go. This is and it's now or never. And those ills have got to be cleaned up. But you've got a problem. And the biggest problem right now is trying to find a way to motivate number 14.
Yeah, Pickens is definitely not looking good out there. I mean, he's looking. I know. Tomlin, said that it wasn't Pickens' fault. He didn't run the wrong route when Russ threw the interception. And I think what he's trying to say there is that regardless of if Pickens ran the wrong route or not, Russ was the one responsible for the throw. He should have seen that guy was, safety was leaning over that direction. He just threw it when he did. And this was in the game before against the Chiefs there. I don't think Russ is to blame for a lot of this. I'll be honest. I think that the offensive game plan has been poor. Tomlin came out in his press conference last week saying we can't do the same thing over and over again and expect something different. We're expecting change. We're going to do some change. And like, as you said, it was, I think there was at one point, probably in the third quarter, the Steelers didn't have very many, plays at that point, not throughout the entire game. I think they only had the ball 22 minutes out of the entire game. But there was a point where it was 20 rushes to 12 passes. And I think even the announcers started to mention that, the last time that the Steelers played the Cincinnati Bengals, that Russ and the Steelers put up some great amount of points, and they did it through the air. I just think that this is more of maybe perhaps I know that the receivers aren't getting open, and George Pickens is also, upset and those things, but maybe perhaps if the Steelers started moving a little bit faster, we wouldn't see those problems. We wouldn't see Pickens upset and those type of things if they can get the ball going down the field in the first quarter.
And I want to piggyback on that. In fact, I'll do that now. Now, here's one thing that I don't think you're handling Pickens right by freezing him out after you throw a ball to him on the very first possession. He catches it for 0 gain, and you freeze him out for a while. And it seemed like they didn't go to him the rest of the way until when they started going to him again. Was he pouting? I don't know. Was he pissed? I don't know, probably. But the bottom line to the whole thing is he was disengaged. And you can say so many things. A guy at this level, yeah. But you've got that goes down to knowing how to handle a diva. And I know a lot about handling a diva because you can't spell Davis without D-I-V-A. Without a diva, actually, so or divas. But look, at this point in the season, you've got to find a way how to motivate them. Remember in that scene in Major League? I'm sure you love the movie Major League. You've got to if you're a sports fan.
Which scene?
The scene when Serrano says that he needs a chicken to sacrifice. And so they get him a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken. They're like, we've got to appease him or we're going to lose him. So they're doing something for him. Find a way to get George Pickens back into the game. If Hard Knocks has taught us anything, Daniel, it's that Mike Tomlin knows how to reach him because he was walking off the field after that interception that was not his fault. I don't even think it was Russell Wilson's fault. He was thrown down, and they didn't throw that flag in that Bengals game. Ended up being a pick six. It was a pick six, right?
Yeah. The first game against the Bengals, yeah.
Yeah, and he was sulking off the field, and he was despondent. And Mike Tomlin said, "I need you. You got to stay in." And for some reason, I don't know, with all this stuff that went on last week with the questions and everything, why. Because Mike Tomlin knows how to do this. He's had to do this with Najee. Last season, he did it with Najee. Najee hasn't been a problem. He knows how to rein these guys in. I don't know what has happened here and why it hasn't, but you've got to play the game with some of these guys, especially when you've got a diva. You've got to know how to speak their language. So I know this is going to be unpopular with a lot of people, but this is who you have right now. You could talk about firing, trading, do whatever you want after this game. But right now, this is your personnel, this is your coaching staff, this is the playoffs. And if you want to advance, hey, advancing doesn't kill you in draft order that much at this point. You're in the 20s. So go for broke and play ball.
Yeah, you got nothing else to lose. I mean, you lose, you go home. There is no next week if you don't do what you need to do.
Okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm just saying Najee hasn't been a behavior problem. He just sucks. Wes, I get it. No, he doesn't just suck. There was a problem last year that I got from source material that after the change was made, there's things that I know. And he was a problem, and it turned it around. So a guy that has 1,000 yards for 4 straight seasons doesn't suck. Shut up.
Najee did have some comments after the Browns game that were leading up to Matt Canada's firing, something to the effect that, there's more going on here you guys didn't know, and alluding that there was an issue with the offensive coordinator. And after that firing, I think there was even a PR person in the locker room when Najee was doing that interview was kind of like, dude, quit it. And he was just kind of continuing to go on. So Najee did have his moments last season. But speaking of Najee, he hasn't had the best of seasons. And I think that when it comes to Jaylen Warren, I think Jalen's at this point a better back. I don't understand why we're still seeing more Najee, especially early on. I think when we've seen Najee get better is as the game progresses. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily because he's, taking a pounding or he's running the ball over and over again, as much as, the defense is getting tired by, at the end of the game. And I just think that at a certain point, maybe it'd be better for the Steelers to use a Warren in the first part. And then, once he's tired out of defense and they get towards that second half of the game, maybe start implementing a little bit more Notch, because he's going to be harder to bring down at that point. He's going to be fresh as well. What are your thoughts on the distribution of the personnel? And it's not just has to be on the running backs. I mean, the fact that Van Jefferson is out there more than any other receiver outside of George Pickens, to me, is a question mark as to why they're doing that. I don't know. Maybe Van Jefferson is like Randy Moss in practice or something, but I'm not seeing it in the game. What are your thoughts on the personnel usage?
I kind of think that let's talk about the running backs first. I do want to address that's a great question on Van Jefferson, but I want to go ahead and address the running backs. They're sometimes with the running backs, I think they're trying to go ahead and stick to their game plan and then try to confuse people, and it's not confusing anybody. Trying to give the ball to Cordero Patterson, who is I really think that I could probably keep up with him for the first 20 yards of a foot race. No, I can't. That's a lie. But what I'm saying though is, yeah, he is going to be valuable in different spots, like he was with those dump offs about 6 weeks ago or a month ago or whenever that was. There's different ways to use him, but when you're using him on third down, and especially to go wide, that's not fooling anybody, and that's not helping you. That's what Jaylen Warren is for. Jaylen Warren is the pinball wizard. Jaylen Warren is the guy that can go ahead and he could be your spark plug. You can use both of these guys more as I love to go back to the early 2000s and Thunder and Lightning. What was it? Wait, Ron Dane and Tiki Bar, I guess, for the Giants. But use a guy like that could drain you. I will go ahead and I always give him crap, but I will also agree with Wes on this one. Najee is better when a defense is tired. It helps. It helps to go ahead. Fourth quarter, you're probably going to feed the ball to Najee a lot, and that's good. He was running hard though in that game, but you've got to go ahead and not telegraph it. Who's in there and who's not in there and who's getting the ball. Why are you not going to use what do they call it, the pony formation, and have two of those guys in the backfield and you don't know who's getting it? It's still very predictable. Now let's talk about the receivers. Mike Williams, I don't know how open he's getting, but he's valuable. He can make catches, but that was just one target. Was that just one target? He had one catch.
I think so. I mean, I think he's caught everything that's been thrown to him, except for one. I think he came back for a penalty. The pass interference, offensive pass interference. Outside of that, he's caught them all, I believe. He's just not targeted very often.
Mark Tobin just mentioned, unfortunately, we need another tackle. These guys are just getting walked. Yeah. I mean, the offensive line is not doing anybody favors anyways, but there's a way to win with these guys. I'm looking for more creativity from it right now. And I think the Steelers, and probably one of the worst things that I'll ever say about Mike Tomlin is that he's stubborn.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a time for the my way or the highway mentality to go away. Mm-hmm. And it's you don't remember the end of the Chuck Noll days, but the Chuck Noll days were, I mean, it was just like, this is what we do. This is who we are. We're not changing for anybody. And 1988, 1989, 1990, those were bad years. Even though they went far in the playoffs in 1989, that was still 9-7. They were getting crushed in games. 88 was horrible. So you could talk about Mike Tomlin. You could talk about, Bill Cowher, who was probably more flexible than any coach that I've ever seen with the Steelers. He was still doing it his way, but he knew how to mix it up a whole lot more. But there were a lot of people that were good thing Twitter wasn't around back then, because there would have been a lot of fire Cowher because we tend to wax the cars of the guys that are gone a whole lot more than remember the revisionist history of how great they were. But if you go back to 1998 to 2000, you wanted him out of there, and that's Bill Cowher. I have a feeling that there's going to be people waxing poetically in another 5 years or 10 years about how great Mike Tomlin was. And I know that's hard to fathom right now, but it's just, it's the, how they say the backup quarterback's always your most popular guy.
Yeah.
Until he has the job for real. And then you realize, we didn't want him after all. That's kind of what the old coach is. It's like, oh, I remember how great it was with him. So that's it. But the distribution of the football, I think it's from where I was sitting. It didn't look like guys were getting open. After Calvin Austin fumbled in that game, it seemed like he was an afterthought as well. And you need to really take advantage of a guy like Calvin Austin III. I mean, you got to redeem after a fumble too. And I know he was, he still had return situations, punt returning. He's like third in the league in punt returning, which I did not realize that. But that was a huge screw up that nobody's talking about right now. That was probably one of the biggest screw ups in that game of a lot of screw ups. But at the end of the day, they had a chance to win it. If they could clean things up, maybe, just maybe, but I'm not betting my house on it.
Yeah, me either. This is going to be a tough game against the Baltimore Ravens for the first playoff game for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. Could be the only playoff game for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. It's going to be a tough one. But we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to talk more about this team. Is there any hope? Is this, is it all doom and gloom? Or is there a chance maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers showed something that could turn the tables around? Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a few words from our sponsors. Welcome back to the Hangover. It's me, Daniel, alongside with me, special guest, former host Brian Davis. Before we get back into the conversation, I want to remind you guys of our website, SteelCurtainNetwork.com, your one-stop shop for Pittsburgh Steelers news and coverage. While you're there, you can check out our audio-only podcast where you'll find mine, State of the Steelers, which airs out on Saturdays. This past weekend, it aired out at 9 a.m. Eastern time. This weekend, it is going to air out also on Saturday at 9 a.m. Eastern before the game that is being a little bit of a preview before the game that Saturday night. Brian, you're going to be on the preview. I'm assuming it's going to be still on Thursday. Is that correct?
Yes, the preview will be on Thursday. We're going to have all systems go. Where things will be a little bit different is where we're going to we moved things around for Monday and Tuesday. So on Tuesday, this show is live on a Monday night. You usually have Here We Go, the Steelers show with Kevin Smith and myself, and that will be debuting at 4 a.m. on the on Steel Curtain Network, on wherever you download your favorite podcast. Then my episode of Bad Language will move from 4 a.m. to 11 a.m. And why did we have to do all that? Because the Mike Tomlin press conference, that takes precedence. And that had to be today because Mike Tomlin spoke today with another Saturday game. So with all of that, that's going to change things around. Things will be back to normal until Saturday morning, where we're going to bunch you guys together, bunch you in black and bold, say the Steelers in black and bold. And then Dave Schofield, probably, I think it's 11 a.m. or noon. We're probably going to have, that's where Last Minute Thoughts is going to be. And then Sunday will be a free for all because we'll figure out what's going on after that game. We have been not running the Q&A on those Sundays that there's no Sunday game, just for the fact that we still need the Q&A on Thursday nights. So to run on Friday morning. So you might have the Fans First Football Show with me, with a gentleman from our Patriots affiliate, a gentleman from our Broncos affiliate, and a gentleman from our Eagles affiliate. We've done it all year long, and it's been a whole heck of a lot of fun. You get a chance to check that out on Steel Curtain Network, or also our NFL affiliate here at the Fans First Sports Network.
Awesome. Make sure you guys go check out the website so you're tuned in on all those things. Like and subscribe here on YouTube if you're listening to this on YouTube, so you're also tuned in to when all the other podcasts that come out here on YouTube live. So let's get back into it. You mentioned the Mike Tomlin press conference earlier today. He brought up an injury. Mason McCormick has a hand injury. He's got a broken hand. He's going to be playing with a cast. I wasn't too thrilled about his play before the hand breakage. I'm not sure, how thrilled I will be if he's out there with a club. Where are you concerned at all about the interior offensive line with McCormick, or do you think maybe perhaps Anderson should start given the injury and the recent play from McCormick kind of struggling there, especially in the pass game? What are your thoughts?
I hate using the phrase rookie wall, especially at South Dakota State. You're playing a good 14 games. I think I think he's the best you have, even with a bum hand at this point. Spencer Anderson is a backup for a reason. I think it's I'm going to quote Al Powell, Sergeant Al Powell from Die Hard. And when I think this is what would be going on in the mind of Mason McCormick, you've got to drag me away. And so I think, he can't get a holding penalty if he can't grasp onto a jersey. But I would kind of see how it's going, and they're gonna do some major evaluating with it. But I don't think it's a disadvantage completely with a club hand if you can still get off your blocks.
Yeah. Hopefully, I feel that the Baltimore Ravens are going to try to exploit this. There's probably going to be a lot of rush throughout the middle of the field, or the middle of the offensive line. It's been it's been a weaker point. I mean, the entire offensive line has been a weaker point, but the middle there has. And if you have somebody in there with a club, or you have somebody in there that's a backup like Anderson, I feel that they're going to try to exploit that. So I'm really hoping the Steelers start throwing in some screens right around in the middle of the field there, and get behind them as they blitz, because the Baltimore Ravens they're aggressive. I was watching them play against the Browns. The Hamilton kid, he's a good safety, but if he sees something being thrown like very close, he charges downfield. I think he's susceptible to a play action pass there and going over the top. But I think that's the only, not the only, but I think that's going to be one of the best routes for the Pittsburgh Steelers if they want to end up winning this upcoming game, is to attack their aggressiveness from the Baltimore Ravens defense. They're on a high. They're trying to get in the Steelers' heads. Did you see the deal that they just put out about George Pickens, about him being as soft as Lamar Jackson's girly perfume? I mean, cologne.
No, I did not see that. When did that come out? I live in Maryland.
I came out today. Apparently, Lamar Jackson likes to wear women's perfume. This is not a joke. This is what he wears. And he came out with his own cologne that was more like perfume. And the guys there in the locker room were trying it on for the Baltimore Ravens. And in the background, you hear one guy says, "It smells like George Pickens." And the other guy goes, "Because it's soft." And they had a big laugh about it. So, yeah, that's what's going on. They're trying to get into George's head early this week.
See, that goes back to what I was telling you before. That's where mentors have got to come in. You saw Muth, you saw even TJ. I think TJ was talking to him on the sideline, and TJ's a leader, but he's not an in-your-face leader. He's a quiet leader. But you have Muth, you've got Russell Wilson trying to talk to him. This is the week where you're like, George, that's noise.
Mhm.
All that is noise. My gosh, why can I not forget his name? The wide receivers coach that unfortunately passed away in 2019.
Drake.
Was it
Was it
Drake?
Drake something?
I was with a D, but my gosh, Daryl.
Daryl.
Was it
What?
Daryl Drake? I don't know. My gosh, I feel bad that I don't remember his name because he was so important to this team. But
Mhm.
his big phrase was drown out the noise. They've got to find a way. This is smart on Baltimore's part. It really is, because they know how to go ahead and upset a guy. What's his name?
Daryl Drake.
Okay. Gosh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I forgot that. But yeah, if I'm Baltimore, they have no class anyways. It's Baltimore. So, they're going to do that, and they expect George to react. This is where you got to help George grow by look, let that motivate you silently, because, I tell my daughter all the time, your brother is 2 years older than you. He's trying to tick you off. He's trying to get you to react. And deep down that he doesn't mean any of that stuff. But if you want to hurt him, you hurt him in a different way by ignoring him, and he's going to stop. Hey, the way to this is I always subscribe, the way to kill a bully is to just smack him in the mouth, but smack him in the mouth with your play, and let it motivate you, just saying, all right, they're trying to get me. I'll show them, but I'll show them in a different way, not with my fist, not with my mouth, not with anything, not by throwing them down, but just by running past them. And that's really what they need to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they definitely do. You know, this was something that they were trying to do last time as well. They were trying to get into George's head before he was declared out. He didn't play the Ravens the last time the Steelers met them. The only concern I have with George Pickens in this game, to be honest with you, I think he gets affected by the cold. He didn't have a couple of games here that were pretty good in the cold. He seems to have the drops. Against Cleveland, he also said that his game was slightly affected by the cold. This is going to be a night game. I'm fairly positive it's going to be cold.
It was cold all day in Maryland today, and they got snow like crazy. They got it worse than where I am in Maryland, in Baltimore. I mean, they got crunched.
Yeah, and if I know the Steelers off, or if I know Mike Tomlin like I do, this means heavy running, regardless of what the opposition is doing during that moment. And so those are the only things that kind of concern me is can they make the changes that are needed? I know they talked about it. I know they've said they're going to make some changes. Until I see it, I don't know. How do you feel about the game being on primetime Saturday night? It's on Amazon and Amazon only. What are your thoughts on that?
I've never sworn on one of these shows, and I'm not going to now, but it's a lot of BS.
Yeah.
Look, I get it. I understand what you're trying to do. And Netflix on Christmas Day, that was a bunch of crap to me too, because they tried to say, oh no, in your local area, you get it. But Daniel, you've been a Steeler fan all your life and have never lived in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
I've lived in Pennsylvania. Now I don't. And I pay to make sure that I get it. And Jeff Hartman talks about this all the time. When you're paying Sunday ticket and you can't get these games unless you're an NFL.com subscriber or unless you're a subscriber to Amazon Prime, that's ridiculous. I know that for my dad to be able to watch the Cleveland game, I don't know how my dad's going to watch this game.
Mm-hmm.
Because giving him my password that doesn't always work, and that's just not good play. And I'm probably going to buy him a a trial so he could watch this game,
Mhm.
because there's no way that trying to give him my password on the phone like I've tried to years ago for Sunday Ticket, that's kind of a disaster. And because I'm not saying anything bad about my dad, it's just like it took him a half to be able to get the game once, and that's with my nephew there, who's very smart when it comes to technology. It's just if I'm not there helping him, but it's just not fair for people that want to watch this game and saying that you have to go ahead and pay for this. I don't like it at all. NFL has enough money and they can do this kind of stuff, but these pay games, they're gonna do it for the Super Bowl soon. I can see someday the Super Bowl being pay-per-view, and guess what? We're addicted. We are not going to stop. We are going to pay that money because that's what we have to do, and we have no power. The NFL is robbing us blind, but they know basically we're all crack hoes. And the NFL, Roger Goodell is the worst dealer there is, because they know that we are powerless to stop our addiction to this great game of football, and we're not going to stop watching.
Yeah, no, I know, man. I'm in the same boat. I was pretty upset when I found out it was Amazon only. I just my free run, or my month that I purchased for the Thursday night game they had on Prime, just ran out. So now I got to go and buy that again for an entire month. And
but it's $7, right?
It could be. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, if it's only $7, I mean, it's not a big deal, but it's the thought. I've also purchased. I had to purchase Netflix. I've also purchased Sunday,
and
you're
a season ticket. You're a season ticket holder too.
Yeah, so it's just kind of like, all right. I mean, I get it, but you guys were just sued and lost. You guys won on appeal, but you just got lost to a bunch of NFL fans for charging them too much. We'll see what happens in the future. I wouldn't doubt that there will end up being a pay-per-view type of Super Bowl. I think that's going to be in the plans. But we're going to speak a little, just a little bit about the future. There's been a lot of rumors going around. I mean, not so much rumors, but there's been a few teams that have had interest in Arthur Smith as their head coach. Jets, Bears. I think there was maybe even one more team. One, are you surprised? And two, how hurt would you be if he left?
You know what? This is again, I'm not going to be popular. I'm never popular. It doesn't matter. Wasn't popular in high school. I basically had to pay my cousin to go to the prom with me. That's a lie. That's a joke. I actually had a date. But she did blow me off at the prom. But anyways, that's for another show as well. But I don't think Arthur Smith is really the complete problem here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the players right now are, I don't think Arthur Smith has the right quarterback. I don't think they have a good enough quarterback situation right now to do what they're doing. I also think, and ST Life has been, I want to steal something from him or her, whoever ST Life is. They keep on saying about the archaic offense. And the problem is, I just feel like this offense is going to work more with the right players and with time. But if it's an opportunity to get a guy like I mean, my gosh, if it's a chance to get another Ben Johnson, you're not going to get Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson's going to be a head coach, maybe in Jacksonville, maybe somewhere. But you get an opportunity to get one of those young minds, one of those guys that are on the Shanahan tree, one of those guys that, and you also have to have a head coach. I'm going to beat you guys to it. I'm not looking right now, but you also have to have a head coach that's going to let them coach.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that at a certain point, you got to stop saying it's the offensive coordinator when that has changed year after, at least a few times. We had Randy Fichtner, Matt Canada, now Arthur Smith, and it just kind of seems like the game plan hasn't changed at all. and there's been a lot of issues as far as first down and early on in games and things like that. That's been the most consistent thing that has happened, and and I'm not a fire Tomlin guy per se, but at some point I'm starting to feel like, man, there's a lot of mistakes going on here, a lot of stubbornness, time management is just horrible, especially this year. It's been horrible. I think this game against the Bengals may have been uh, a little bit better. They had an opportunity to win it at the end with some timeouts in their pocket. Well, except for the last play, they didn't have any more. At that point, they would have had to have downed it and hoped that Boss would have knocked in a very long football or a long field goal attempt, which is very possible. I mean, he's had a great year this year. But Tomlin is the other guy that a lot of folks are thinking that maybe won't be a member of the Steelers. I think it was Adam Schefter saying that there's talk that maybe some guys might be in, or some teams might be inquiring for trading Mike Tomlin. I don't think it's going to happen, but what would your thoughts be if it did happen?
Be careful what you ask for, but also at this point, I love the word archaic, and I'm thinking after a while, your way's not working. You've got to be able to adjust. And if there's no adjustment, if there's stubbornness, then I've got to say at this point, I'm picking up the phone and I'm not going, don't bother me with this. All right, what do you got? And then you talk to Mike. Mike Tomlin is not going to be fired. If you think Mike Tomlin is going to be fired, you're ridiculous to think that, because there's no way they're going to do that, because one, it's not their MO. Two, he's going to resign. If not, you trade him. And trading him is firing him in a different way. But you're not going to get anything back for him. Just like you're not going to cut George Pickens, you're going to trade George Pickens. You might, with the way things are going, you might get a third and a fifth for him. But for a head coach, you always get those high numbers. You're gonna possibly get 2 number 1 picks for him. And what if a bad team? What if Jacksonville? Hell, what if you get a phone call from the Tennessee Titans right now, and they say number 1 pick in the draft and number 1 pick next year, and they're not going to be good next year either. So, do you hang up the phone and say F off? No. You hang up you say, all right, we've got to decide whether we want to do this or not. Then you have a conversation with Mike. If you are committed to Mike Tomlin, no, you're not going to do it. But you're dumb if you aren't going to at least find out what the market is for your guy.
I agree. I would be picking up the phone. I know a lot of people are saying there's no trade clause in his deal there, but that just means that he has to be in agreement with the trade. Doesn't mean that they can't trade him. I think Sean Payne had a no trade clause as well, and he ended up with Denver. So he left the Saints and he was ready to go, and the Saints were ready to pick up, was it like 2 first rounders no, they picked up a first round and a third round or something like that, third round in the next draft. I don't know if I'd let him go for that low. I think 2 first rounders, maybe even the like the John Gruden deal that he got back in the day, that might be something that I would probably consider. You have to figure out who's going to be the next guy. I know a lot of people are throwing him Mike Variable into in the mix here.
That's been a name. That's been a name that sources have talked about. Even last year, if he decides to leave, that's a name that's very popular. Mike Vrabel. I cut you off and I apologize, but that's a name that's really popular. Again, the thing with Tomlin is you have to. I'm not saying don't listen. You've got to decide what direction you want to go with right now. And it's it's ultimately their team. We don't make the decision. Just like I can't get Bob Nutting to do anything for the Pittsburgh Pirates as a fan. and I can get other fans to boycott Pirates games. They do nothing either. I mean, the organization, they want to tell you, any organization wants to tell you that they care about their fans. To an extent, they care about their fans, but they want to run their business the way they want to run their business. If I'm the general manager, I might not be initiating calls for Mike Tomlin, but I'm not hanging up the phone right now, because there's a point where it always there's an end to everything. And sometimes it gets to a point where you're just like Chuck Noll. Chuck Noll, one of the greatest coaches of all time. He won 4 Super Bowls. My gosh, hell, we're not even talking about Bill Belichick. Nobody wanted him last year. Nobody. I mean, and he desperately wants to coach in the NFL because that record's close. Nobody wanted Bill Belichick. And look at all the Super Bowls the guy has won. But there comes a point where you're not winning anymore because your ideals, your strategies are not going with the times. My gosh, the things that I do just in my own household. I'm 53. I do things that my parents did in the 80s, and they're not working right now. I mean, it's the same thing. The best coaches, the best parents, the best everybody evolves with the times.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, if you don't adapt, you don't change in any aspect in any field you work in, you're going to get left behind. And it just kind of seems that way a little bit, even though the Steelers had a fairly good year. I mean, I think if you started off in the beginning of the year, or if anybody told me in the beginning of the year that, hey, the Steelers are going to make the playoffs this year and be 10-7, I don't think anybody would have batted an eye to that. I think they would have been like, man, that's a pretty good year. You had some context there. They lost the last 4. Knew we had an opportunity to have the first seed at one point. But, in the end, I think a lot of people would have thought that they would have been at this point anyways. I just hope they win a game, man. I want to see them go further than this. I think that if they end up going one and done again this year, I mean, I don't know. I think the fan base is going to start really getting a little bit unhinged. I mean, they got unhinged with the Canada stuff, the Fire Canada. I mean, that spread everywhere. I'm not saying they're going to go that far for any of these guys, but I wouldn't be surprised if we start hearing chants. I mean, for one thing, I think it's a good thing that this game's probably on the road, because if it was at home, I wouldn't be surprised if we were hearing chants of maybe Justin Fields or Fire Smith or some of those things coming in pretty soon.
The Justin Fields, there was a point early on when there was a Justin Fields chant. I only heard it once. It was in our section, and it was happening. So that's it wasn't as loud, and it stopped really fast. But it's just the way it goes. Look, there's going to be a point where and I might be outdated now with what I'm doing here on Steel Curtain Network. And there might be a point when there's a conversation, just like there was a conversation with Myron Cope, asked them like, hey, when I'm losing it, just please have the conversation with me. There might be a point with me. There might be a point that another network calls up and says, hey, we'll give you $500,000 for the rights to Daniel J's contract. And I'd be like, I love Daniel, but $500,000, I might kill you.
If they're willing to pay you that much to get me away, I'm sure they'll pay me a little more to keep me there.
So yes, absolutely. And that's a compliment. That's not, that's just, you have to listen to what's out there, and you make those big decisions. And when I say that, if somebody called up and said, hey, I know he's your franchise, but we want to talk about, this is what we're offering for TJ Watt. Even though you might have no intention in getting rid of the guy, you're going to listen. What if for some crazy reason, and no one's going to do it, but what if some crazy reason you hear the next 4 number 1s and 2 number 2s? Are you going to listen to the TJ Watt thing?
Oh yeah.
I know that's crazy, but you're probably going to listen to it. But what you're saying most is you want to just win a game. And we're frustrated fans because January's a funny time too. You just got through the holidays. The weather in a lot of places, especially Pittsburgh, is cold, it's dreary. And what gets you through more than anything? You live vicariously through the Pittsburgh Steelers or whatever team you will follow. And so they give you hope. And when they're winning, things go away. You know what? Your problems in life. You know why people go to the movies, Daniel?
What's that?
To escape reality. They go to the movies, they escape reality, they watch that, they're entertained for 2 hours because they're watching someone else's problems and they're not having problems during that time. That's the same reason people follow sports, because it makes you have the exhilaration when your team wins. You feel like you're a part of it. That's why people go to games and spend the money that goes through that stadium is incredible. That just the other night, the money that goes through the stadium of the Jacksonville Jaguars is probably still staggering too every single week. It's just there, but we go there because we want to have that great feeling when they win, and especially when they hoist that sticky Lombardi. You feel amazing, and it's something special, and you remember where you were. And your problems in life are big. Everybody's problems are big. But they go away for that 3 hours when you're watching that team, especially when they win, because you feel like you could walk on air when you see James Harrison take a ball back 100 yards. When you see Lynn Swann make an acrobatic catch in the Super Bowl, when you see Santonio Holmes go up, bend to 10, grab that and win that game. When you see Willie Parker go 75 yards, also because Alan Faneca pulled. When you see Ike Taylor, who never catches a pass, pull down an interception late in a Super Bowl against Seattle. All that stuff, when it happens, the exhilaration is incredible, and that's why we watch. And it's so disappointing to see what happens when they don't do things the way that conventional wisdom says you should do them. And that's what becomes so frustrating as a fan. So I always say this: you fan the way you want, but let other fans think that way too.
Yeah.
And I'm a hypocrite too, because I call out some people that have different opinions. So I'm a little bit of a hypocrite, and I know that. But I will say this: it is so gorgeous to know that there's a chance that they could win this game. It might be minute in your mind, and that's fine. But most of you are still going to be watching it, hoping to be exhilarated at the end.
Yeah, exactly. And to the other point too, guys, at the end of the day, this may be the last 3 hours of Steeler football that you see in a while. Might as well soak it up and be engaged and hope the best comes out in this game. I'll be watching it. I'll be tuning in, hoping and praying that the Steelers pull up the upset. They're heavy underdogs in this game, and we're going to be talking about it all week long. So make sure you like and subscribe, ring that notification bell, do the whole 9 yards. Shannon, Brian, that was a great ending there. Do you have any other final words you want to say before we call this one a show?
Well, if you're going to call me Shannon, I've got to do my Shannon. No, I can't. I'll do my Shannon impression. I tell you what, Daniel. Is that close?
That's pretty close. Well, I appreciate you tuning in. Shannon is okay. I know some folks were asking. He's all right. He just got snowed in, and his internet has been kind of shaky. He should be back on probably on Wednesday for the Pump Your Brakes podcast. So make sure you guys tune in for that. Thank you again, Brian, for stepping in. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. You know what to do. We got one more week, at least Let's enjoy it.
Embrace it, and hope we're back here talking about some good stuff next week. Talking about Buffalo, maybe.
Or Houston. I hope Houston.
How amazing you would love that, because you would find a way to get there.
I would be there if it's Houston.
Oh, again, let me jump in one more time. I know we went way over. I just want to say to everybody out there, we can't do these shows without you. I know I said it at the beginning. We love you. You're the reason we're here. Even the ones that I insult, I apologize sometimes. But I would just tell you that you're all important. Each and every one of you is the 119 eyes that are on us right now, and the thousands that will be listening through download, maybe in their car by themselves. We do appreciate all of you. They're asking for a woo, but I cannot do it. That's not fair. I'm not taking anybody else's shtick, but I will do this. I will do this, since this is the Hangover. If you wouldn't mind me doing this, just to give it to him, because I'll let you do the woo.
I ain't doing a woo.
But let me go ahead and do this. Just when you think you've got all the answers, we keep changing the questions.
There you go.